Hey, good morning. I'm horticulturist Gary Bachman, and it's time for another, hey, ask me anything. We're in the middle of May now. It is prime gardening season. You know, as you can see, I'm here at the Urban Nano Farm. Take a look out back. You can see my earth boxes out there. We've got the peppers going. I've got 24 different kinds of peppers, ranging from bell peppers to all the trendy peppers, the shishito and ones like that. So I'm in the gardening mood right now, gardening mode. The tomatoes are starting to come in, and if you've got questions on peppers, tomatoes, really anything dealing with the garden, ask me anything, right? One thing that I will say that we are going to do a giveaway today. I've got a great prize that's coming out of the Southern Gardening Vault, and I'm not going to tell you what it is. You got to wait till the end. You got to hang on to the end to find out how to, get in line to try to win this. It is a fabulous prize. Um, Now, so let's just start in with questions that I've been getting already this year. It seems like we have got we've been invaded by burweed. You know sand burrs. People call them stickers that are out in the yard. And hang on, I have to change the light here a little bit. I'm getting a little bit of glare there from the side. Oh, I think I just made it worse. Hang on a second. We'll do that. Burweed is one of these weeds that people want to control now. And in fact, it's really too late now because the plant is already flowered. It's already set the little seeds, which are the burrs that stick in your feet. And it's actually a weed that we have to start controlling in October using pre-emerge herbicides. You know, an application in October when these plants are actually starting to germinate, and then another application, say February, and just to kind of give a little more control. It'll help with the other weeds too, but the burweed is kind of problematic. It doesn't do any good now to spray a post emerge on it, except from the fact that it may give you a little bit of satisfaction. Right now it's nothing to worry about. It's going to go away. The stickers are going to be there. Just put on your gardening calendar to start with the pre-emerge in your lawns in October. Send me questions. If you forget what to use, and I'll send you my recommendations, products that I use in my yard. So we've got some questions already coming in, and Rona asked the question, what's up with the Indian hawthorn bushes? They're brown and they seem dead. Well, Indian hawthorn is affected by a fungal pathogen, Entospomorium. It's, we get it because we have overplanted Indian hawthorn. I like Indian hawthorn. I mean, I think it's a great plant, but every builder for the last, 25 years has used it. And so there's a big, if you want to say there's a big base for the for the fungus to invade and cause problems. There's really not a curative fungicide. You really need to deal with it in a preventive way, and that's putting the fungicides down before you start seeing those fungal spots. And we're going to see that, when the temperatures are cooler, there's going to be high humidity, high moisture in the air. It's prime time to get problems like that. So that's just something that we've got to be a little proactive if you want to keep Indian hawthorn in your landscape. A little bit of trivia: the Entospomorium is the same pathogen that took out all of our photinias, all of our red tips, because we overplanted red tips, and there was a big base for that fungus to get a foothold. So I was just a little bit extra information there, but got to be proactive. Contact fungicides like chlorothalonil would work, copper would work, but that's going to be what you need to do. Now, as far as brown stems, go ahead and just prune those out. 9 times out of 10, they're not going to come back, and you can remove some of the pathogen, clean up around the shrubs, because the fungus will overwinter in the litter, in the basically in the mulch around the bottom of the plant. So hope that helps, Rona. Okay, so now we've got Cindy has any tips on gardenia planting. Now, gardenias, everybody loves gardenias. Um, they're impacted a lot by excessive moisture, primarily. They can be impacted by some pH issues around, in the planting bed where they're at. So that's a case where I really think that a soil test would really be helpful, because you just might be, if I remember right, gardenia is like a lower pH. If your pH is too high, then nutrients get tied up. So I would say go ahead and get a soil test, and that should get you on the right track. Now, to be perfectly honest with everybody, I planted a couple of gardenias in big containers last year, and they didn't do well in some of the rains and everything we've had in those containers. So I don't know if I've got the wrong mix in there, or if I need to lighten the mix up. But I've had problems with gardenias. So I hope that helps you with that. Okay, so now Rona comes back and asks, did the ice and snow kill the plants? Now, Rona, I have to ask you, where are you located at? Because here on the coast, we didn't get any of those issues, and so yeah, it's possible that the cold could have had an impact on those. Um, it's just one of those things. Primarily, it's the entospomorium that causes the problem. Oh, South Haven. Yeah, I would say, yeah, the cold up in North Mississippi could have had some impact on that. So just one more tidbit for you. Okay, so now Ledebra asks, can I still prune deadwood out of the crepe myrtles? Yes. If you see branches that just didn't come out this spring, most of our crepe myrtles have the foliage has popped out, and we have some dead branches. Yeah, go ahead, prune those out. Take that branch, that dead branch, all the way back to a main stem, and prune it off pretty flush there at that point. And that's the easiest way, I think, to take care of that the dead wood in a crepe myrtle. Don't chop them off. You really don't need to do that. But judicious pruning, absolutely go for that. And we've got Ellen has put up the I've got to look here a second. She put up the information from MSU Extension on the burweed. So if anybody wants more information on that publication, and she's also put the information up for soil testing. So if you want to get a soil test, you go to that link that she's put up there for us, and get that information. Okay, and so Kathy now asks. Okay, now we're getting into the earth boxes. One of my, if you follow Southern Gardening, you know that earth boxes are one of my favorite topics. Now, do you put tomatoes in the same mix in the earth box every year? Yeah, this is one instance where I wouldn't and I don't recommend soil rotation or rotating where you put your tomatoes. There's a difference between growing in the ground in real soil versus growing in the potting mix. Like everybody asks me about what potting mix I like. Here's the Jolly Gardener. Love this stuff. Professional garden mix, container mix. But the difference in the two systems is the peat-based mix is inhospitable to those bacterial wilt organisms. And so we don't have to rotate. In fact, I've been growing tomatoes in the same earth boxes since 2008. I just fluff the mix up every year, add some more mix. You have to put the lime, you have to fertilize, but you don't have to change the mix out every year. You don't have to grow tomatoes in different earth boxes. Now, if you're using a professional mix and you're starting to add compost into it, I know a lot of people do that. I don't recommend it, but a lot of people do, and and they want to grow that way, and that's perfectly fine. There's lots of different ways to get to the same point in the garden. But once you start introducing composted material, then you're going to have more of a likelihood at some point that you're going to see these wilt organisms show up in your boxes. So I never add anything but the professional potting mix in my earth boxes. And that's the way I've always done it. We've been growing in some of these earth boxes now for 14 years, and I have yet to dump out an earth box. I've tipped some out because I've had to do some repairs, but just to dump it out and clean the mix out, no, never done it. Partly because I have 136, and I just don't physically don't have the time to do it, but it's not necessary. So I hope that helps you out, Kathy. Let's see where we got here. Friend Gloria's on there. Hey Gloria, I got a comment for you. Saw those pictures that you posted on Facebook yesterday. Those tomatoes look awful familiar. I'm just saying, I think I've seen those before, but they were looking good. Good job on growing those. Okay, so now Kathy is asking another question here. Planted for the first time in grow buckets. Explain adding lime to the tomatoes. Great question. When you're growing tomatoes in, if it's just a regular container or an earth box or one of the grow buckets, I've done a daily dose on the grow buckets. We're gonna be doing an update this weekend on how the tomatoes are growing. But what we have to look at when we're growing in that professional potting mix or that professional container mix is it's got a lower, if you want to call it a lower, let's just say capacity to hold nutrients, to hold calcium. And so it's really important that when we plant tomatoes in a container, or peppers, or even squash, these fruits and vegetables that get blossom end rot, which is a calcium deficiency and infrequent watering. Putting the calcium in, and you'd want to use dolomitic lime, dolomite. Sometimes you have to read the label at the garden center. A lot of times it's called lawn lime or garden lime, but look for dolomite or dolomitic limestone. We add that to make sure that there's enough calcium available to those plants while those fruit are developing. And I know in the grow bucket instructions they're not as explicit as the earth box, and so here's my take on that. The earth boxes recommend 2 cups of dolomitic limestone per earth box. An earth box holds 2 cubic feet of potting mix. So that breaks down into 1 cup of dolomite per cubic foot of mix. A grow bucket holds just under 1 cubic foot of mix. It holds like 0.75 cubic feet. Go ahead and do 1 cup of dolomite, mix that in when you're setting up the grow bucket for your tomatoes. If you haven't done it, what you can do is take that dolomite, spread it around the top of the pot, and just work it in with your fingers. It'll work out just fine that way. But every time that you plant tomatoes in these, in these containers, you really need to add dolomite. And we don't worry about the pH so much in the containers like we do in real garden soil. So that was one thing that I would do. Don't buy, if you're going to look at it, don't buy products like quicklime. I've actually even seen there's have been products out, liquid lime. Don't use that. Just buy the garden lime, the pelletized. It costs like $4 for 40 pounds. And if you just got a few containers, that's enough to last you for 10 years. So that would be my advice, Kathy, on the grow buckets. Let's see, what other questions I've been getting here this spring kind of revolve around pruning. And when do we prune azaleas? Can we prune azaleas? The optimal time to do that. Well, of course we can prune azaleas. And really you can anytime you want. But realize that azaleas form their flowers. Now their flowers for 2022 are going to start forming later this summer. So if you want to prune azaleas, go ahead and do it now. They've all bloomed. You can shape them up any way you want. And just make sure you get that pruning done before 4th of July. That's just an easy date. Really the date is first day of summer, towards the end of June. But might not remember that. You'll remember 4th of July. So you can go ahead and prune those back now. If you've got an azalea, we see some of these azaleas, some of these indicas just become big monsters, 8, 9, 10, 12 feet. And they just get too big for their space. Well, azaleas will handle really severe pruning. You could go ahead and take that big monster azalea and bring it down to, a foot off the ground, 18 inches off the ground, all the, 18-inch circle. They'll be perfectly fine. They may not bloom next year because they've got to, produce new foliage, new growth, and so a lot of energy will go into that new growth. But the following year, they'll be great, and that azalea is back under control. So don't be scared to prune azaleas. Also get questions on hydrangeas. Now hydrangeas are a little trickier because we really have hydrangeas that bloom at different times. We have the ones that bloom like the French azaleas that bloom first out in the spring, may not even have any leaves on when they pop open. Those are hydrangeas that produce their flower buds last year. So we don't want to prune those early flowering hydrangeas until after they bloom. Then we have the hydrangeas like the paniculatas, like the limelights, those type of azaleas that bloom on new growth later in the summer and into the fall. So we can take those and we can prune those now and get that growth controlled, let them push out new growth. That's where the flower buds are going to pop out. So you really have to know when the hydrangea blooms, and that dictates when you're going to prune. If you've got any questions on that, we do have a hydrangea publication with extension. We'll get Ellen to look that up and put that link up, and helps describe the different types of hydrangeas and when you can plant those. So that would be my advice on that. Okay, so we've got a question. Sharon asks, should I add garden lime to my tomatoes planted in ground? This is an instance where I'll say yes, but I'm going to qualify it. I'd really like you to get a soil test, just to make sure that you don't change your pH too much. The tomatoes and the peppers and the squash and the cucurbits are going to need that calcium, but we just want to make sure that we don't overcompensate. But that's my advice on that. Yes, but but qualified with a soil test. Like every couple of years, every 2 or 3 years, you'll probably be okay in that situation. Okay, Ellen's put the hydrangea pub up. That's great. Thank you very much. Now Sharon also asked, do I or can you add black cow to container tomatoes? No, I don't recommend that. You know, if you're going to grow in containers, I'd really rather you go with the professional growing mix, um, as is, adding lime, adding fertilizer. But I don't like to add any other organic amendment in there. That's just, look, that's my personal preference. That's the recommendations I make. Will it cause problems? Maybe not. But I think black cow is better used in your raised beds, in your in-ground plantings. I think that's a fine product, and that's where I would use it if I grew that way. Okay, so friend Sadie Aber. Hey Sadie, how you doing this morning? Okay, she asked, what products do we recommend for fire ants? Well, there's a couple of ways that we can go about this. For your land, for your lawn and your landscape, I think the way to go is to use the area baits. Those are granulars that we spread out, and we typically will recommend to put those out 3 times a year. And we'll get Ellen, if you'll find the Blake's fire ant recommendations, if you'll post that for us. But we'll put these granular products out 3 times a year. And again, we're going to look at holidays: Easter, 4th of July, Labor Day. And what that does, that pushes the fire ants out. You'll kill some of the mounds, but you'll keep other ants from the into your yard. Where we change tactics a little bit is when we get into the vegetable garden, because lot of the products, a lot of the granular products aren't labeled for edible crops. I got to read something that Meg has just put up here. Okay, discuss fire ant control. Meg, I'll get to your question. I may be answering it here too. But we need to look at the vegetable garden using products that are labeled for edible crops. And the product that I like to use is called spinosad. It's an organic. It's a bacterial fermentation, if you can believe it or not, that works very well. There's some granular spinosad products that we can put in the in-ground garden, but we also will get fire ants in our containers, because the fire ants, they're looking for a moist environment that's protected. And man, when they find containers, they love containers. And how do you go ahead and get rid of fire ants in containers? My go-to is, again, spinosad. We can use that in edible crops. Since I grow a lot of edibles in containers, that's what I've got on hand all the time. And it's basically making a drench. It's 4 tablespoons of spinosad of the product per gallon of water, and you just drench the pot. That takes care of the fire ants like within 30 minutes. I don't like to hear all the homemade remedies for getting rid of fire ants, because they don't work. Grits don't work. Cornmeal doesn't work. I mean, it really sounds great. We can put some grits out on a fire ant mound, and we think that fire ant's going to eat that grit. It's going to get into its stomach, and it's going to swell up because there's so much moisture in that little itty bitty ant that grit's going to, and they're going to blow up. I mean, that just sounds great, doesn't it? But it doesn't work that way, because the adult ants that we see out on top of the ground don't eat solid food. They actually take that grit, which is a carbohydrate, back into the mound, and they feed it to, and I forget if it's the 3rd or 4th instar, which does eat carbohydrates, but then those instars convert that into liquid food for the adult ants. So when we put grits and cornmeal out on a mound, we thinking we're killing the mound. No, we're actually feeding the mound. And that's just something I just wish people would stop doing it. I heard one lady on the radio said that she was using grits on a fire ant mound, and 2 months later they left. Well, who wants to wait 2 months, right? You use the products that are labeled for the fire ants. I got Sadie. I got a little long-winded on that one. Sorry about that. Let's see. I got her. Megas, I know we've discussed fire ant control lately, but my enclosed vegetable garden area, about 20 by 30, is teeming with ants all over. Best situation. I think, okay, so I was getting there, Meg. Yeah, the spinosad, you know, get the spinosad area bait for that, and you'll be in good shape. Or if you want to treat individual mounds, use the spinosad drench. That'll be appropriate too. So however you want to do that. Okay, so Patricia Weeks has posted, please post the video on how to save tomato seeds. Yeah, I'll tell you something. Saving tomato seeds has been a very popular topic that we've done with our daily doses. And we'll go out there and just just this past week, I was out there showing how we cover the the hands, the tomato flowers come out. I call them hands, and how we cover those tomato flowers up with those little mesh bags. I'll repost how we do that, but we cover up those flowers not so much to keep insects away. It really, that's what it does. It keeps insects away. But the tomatoes don't rely on pollinators to pollinate those flowers. It's the structure of that flower, the way it hangs. There's a little. Go out in your garden, take a look at at a tomato when we get done with this, and there's a little cone, a little yellow cone in the center of that flower hanging down. Well, that cone is made up of the stamens, which have the pollen. And then on the inside of the cone is the pistil that the pollen gets deposited on. So all we need is just the wind, just to jiggle those flowers a little bit to dislodge the pollen, let it fall on the pistil. And we put the bag on there just to keep any insect, because we do get insects visiting those flowers, because that's what insects do, right? But we just use the little bags as a way to keep those insects off, and possibly transferring some pollen, which may or may not occur. But we'll go ahead. I'll put some more information out on that, and we'll talk more about that. Thanks, Patricia, for bringing that up. Let's see other things that are going on. If you've watched the daily doses, I did one that actually turned out pretty popular here a couple weeks ago, was protecting yourself from the sun. I talked about in the video that I've had 6 Mohs procedures over the last couple of years for just being out in the sun, not taking care of my skin. Let's face it, 40 years ago, it's when a lot of this gets set up. Well, I found these sleeves. They're from Farmer's Defense, and these are called Farmer Armor. And this is one of my favorites. This is flamingos. But I feel like I'm showing off some fashion here. But these sleeves go on, and they provide protection from the sun. Because I'll always forget to put sunscreen on my arms. I forget to put sunscreen on my nose too. Not as much, but end up with the sleeve on here. And we don't have to worry about getting sunburn or getting even more sun exposure on the arms. But these are from Farmer's Defense, farmersdefense.com. These are called Farmer Armor, and all different styles and shapes, colors. they've got solid colors. They're pretty boring, but they've got camouflage. They've got these fun prints. But anyways, that's my go-to right now for getting some sun protection, other than the sunscreen and and my Tilly hat. So no more questions. Oh my gosh, you mean I've answered all the questions here this morning? Um, trying to think some of the other biggies that have come up. One of the things I talked to the Gulfport Civic League the other day, and were questions about lawns and how to keep your lawn healthy. You know, can we have a lawn without using the herbicides and things? And sure, we can do that. The best thing that you can do for your lawn to keep it healthy is cutting it at the right height. Now, we'll hear a lot of recommendations of let your lawn grow tall in the summertime. And that works to a degree. When we're dealing with cool season grasses, when we get into the bluegrasses and fescues, I think that's great advice, because they tend to go a little dormant in our hot summer. But we grow warm season grasses. We grow St. Augustine and centipede and Bermuda and zoysia. And these are grasses that are actively growing during the summer months. And so I take the stance of going to go ahead and cut the grass at the right height. So let's just say we have St. Augustine. I think cutting St. Augustine at 3 inches is fantastic. And then when we mow, we're really any of the grasses, we only ever want to take off 1/3 of the grass. So if we cut St. Augustine at 3 inches, we can let St. Augustine grow to 4.5, just another 1.5 inches. That's 1/3, and then cut it. And so we're not cutting it very frequently. On the converse side, the shorter you cut the grass, when we look at centipede, likes to be cut at 2 inches. Well, we can let it grow to 3 inches, but we're going to be cutting it more often than St. Augustine. When we get to zoysia grass, we're looking at getting down into that 1 to 1.5 inches. So we can only let it grow to about 2.25 inches. So we're cutting more frequently, and same thing with Bermuda. So the shorter you cut the grass, the more frequently you need to mow it, and you'll have much healthier turf that way than trying to golf green it and then let it grow 5 inches tall, then come back in and cut it down real low again. That really doesn't work. If you're cutting it at the wrong height, the grasses tend to thin out, and once they thin out, sunlight gets to the soil, and those weed seeds, which are always there, are going to germinate in that situation. So let's see. Gloria asks, so I have bare spots in my lawn. Is it too late to seed? Gloria, it depends. Do you know what kind of grass you've got? That's gonna tell us whether you can seed or not. If it's St. Augustine, there isn't any St. Augustine seed. It's vegetative, so that's a sod situation. But if you've got centipede grass, yeah, you could go ahead. I wouldn't want to sod, or I wouldn't want to seed a whole area of centipede grass or a whole area of Bermuda. And you can even buy zoysia seed, but it tends to get a little expensive, and they tend to be a little persnickety, growing seed out in the lawn. You have to keep everything pretty consistently evenly moist while those seeds germinate, and they may take a week or two to germinate, and then we run into the real hot dry period, so that means dragging the hose out and things. I would really think if they're smaller areas, go buy pieces of sod. We can do that. most likely you're going to find at the big garden center, the big home improvement centers, primarily just carry St. Augustine. If you go to some of the independent garden centers, you might be able to get some of the other. And Glory, don't know what kind, but have many oak trees. I think the leaves are killing my grass. Um, Gloria, it's probably not the leaves. It's probably the shade. I'm just guessing. Take some pictures and send them to me at Southern Gardening at msstate.edu, and I'll take a look at them for you. And give you my take on the situation. But I would bet that shade is playing a big role in that. So how we doing time wise, Ellen? We're slowing down on the questions. Oh, here I'm just talking about that. LaDebra comes back. My backyard is almost all clover. I did put out weed. Are you talking about like pre-emerge herbicide? How can I encourage the clover to grow all over? I'm doing it for the bees. Okay, I get you. I get you. Dig out. Okay, yeah. If you want to encourage the clover growth, yeah, some of the other weeds you can go ahead, and dig those out. And the easiest way to encourage the clover is to not use any herbicides, and I wouldn't cut it while it's all in flower. You want it out there, so we get the bees, they're going to pollinate, and then let that clover start producing some seed, and it'll reseed itself. I think clover will spread a little bit, but it'll reseed itself. So yeah, just refrain from mowing while it's all white. That would be the okay. Garden organically, no chemicals. Yeah. That's what I would do. I just wouldn't mow it very often, and just let it grow. That would be the thing, and dig out the ones that you don't want. You can also buy white clover seeds. So if you want it to spread faster, you go ahead and throw some more seed out there too. That would be maybe even a quicker way of getting more and more white clover seed, and you can do that for those pollinators who are out there, and that's a great plant. I applaud you for it. So I'll tell you what, we're not getting any more questions. I am gonna say I think we've talked a lot about the garden here today. What I want to do right now, before I talk about the giveaway, I want everybody to write my wife and tell her happy birthday. It's her birthday's tomorrow, and I think that'd just be fantastic if her Facebook page would be flooded with happy birthday stuff. She's in the other room, I think, watching now, and she's getting ready to kill me. So this may be the last time we do Ask Me Anything. We'll see what happens with that. So we'll do that. What I want to do here, let's talk about the giveaway. What I've pulled out of the vault is a little hose nozzle from Dram. This is a fantastic little sprayer that you can hook on to the to the end here. I'm putting it up to the wrong place, up to the end of the hose. What I like about it, it's one of these one touch, where just to turn the water on is just a thumb, and it turns the valve on and off. This is fantastic. It's funny. We did a daily dose of hort last summer, showing off some of the Dram products, and Dram Corporation picked up on that and have used that in their social media work. And I got a really nice letter from the president of Dram, and he sent me a goodie box. And this spring, I asked for some more goodies, and they sent me some more goodies. And this is one of them, just to share with the members of Southern Gardening Nation. This particular model has stream on it, and has shower on it. I've used one of these. These are fantastic in the garden. And so what we're going to do is, in order to be in the running for this, and what we'll do is we'll keep this going until Sunday evening, because Ellen will post this video, and we'll have a lot of people watching this after the live event. But go ahead, make a comment in the comment sections, and we're just going to do a random draw. And I'll notify the winner. I'll tell everybody who won it, but I'll ask the winner to send me a home address, and I'll ship this to you. But this is a fun product. I think everybody would really enjoy this. And if you don't win it, get out to your independent garden center and buy yourself one of these, because they are great. So with that, lots of happy birthday for Kate. This is fantastic. And yeah, thanks, Ellen, for putting that out there. And with that, no more questions. I'm going to go ahead and say, listen, thanks everybody for hanging out with us this morning, talking gardening. It's going to be a great weekend. So get out there, get in the garden. If you haven't put your tomatoes in, still not too late. Prime time for peppers, prime time for squash and stuff like that. So listen, I'm going to say adios. Everybody have a great weekend. Follow us, tell your friends, follow us on social media, Southern Gardening, Facebook and Instagram. And what was I? Oh, I just lost my train of thought. Oh yeah, watch us. Be sure to watch our daily doses of Hort. They're just me gardening, showing how I garden in our yard. Showing you that, hey, I'm a gardener just like everybody else. So listen, thanks for joining me. We'll see you, sometime down the road, next month for sure, for another Ask Me Anything. Have a great weekend, everybody.